Bobby Slowick, Blankers, I think tipped his hand yesterday, and I think we can cross a certain quarterback, first-round rookie quarterback, off the Houston Texans big board completely. Bobby Slowick was meeting with the media. The two coordinators were meeting with the media for the first time yesterday in Houston. And Bobby Slowick talked about the Houston Texans offense, and I think, at least the way that I'm interpreting it, that he is out and the Texans are out on a certain rookie QB. Take a listen.
It's not any one position. It's kind of the whole unit, how it all fits together. We kind of take a top-down view, but how we see everything working together is, we're an offense built on precision. Everybody kind of working together in unison, on time, in rhythm. That's the starting point, but it's not any one given position. We see how it all fits.
You guys tell me if I'm reading too much into this. And 713-780-3776. Blankers, I hear the word precision. And whenever I hear the word precision, that tells me that he kind of wants a quarterback that's a point guard, that's going to get the ball out on time, that's going to put the ball where it needs to be, that's going to throw. Hey, sometimes it's going to be a screen pass. Look at San Francisco with Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Ayuk, the skill that they had around that quarterback position. A lot of times it wasn't the dude that had the biggest arm. It wasn't the dude that could sit back in the pocket and have 5 seconds and pick the defenses apart. It was about the quarterback who had precision and could put the ball where it needed to be on time. When I hear precision, the quarterback that it completely eliminates for the Houston Texans, in my opinion, and if y'all think I'm wrong, let me know in 713-780-3776. I think Anthony Richardson's out for the Houston Texans.
First, the minute I heard precision, I thought exactly the same thing. I thought, well, then he's not your guy. However, if I want to push back on that a little bit, I'd say, then why did they go get Trey Lance? Because Trey Lance seems to be more Anthony Richardson than he does a Bryce Young, timing, precision, following the plan, executing the play type guy. Maybe that's just me. But, based on where he came from, how he played in college, what they were looking at with it, what his strengths and attributes were when they went out and they got him, it seems like in San Francisco, when they were all on that staff, they were okay in getting a guy that doesn't seem to fit those guidelines. But if he's saying that now as a member of the Houston Texans, it definitely leads you to believe that Anthony Richardson is not on their list.
But see, I think that's interesting because there's been reports that Trey Lance was the John Lynch choice, and that people thought, Mike Flores said a million times, the 49ers traded up to number 3 to draft Mac Jones. That's precision.
Yeah, I think that was a smokescreen.
I think it might have been too, but he fits what they are. Imagine Mac Jones in their offense last year, not Brock Purdy. They might have been playing in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's a better version of Brock Purdy, right?
Yeah,
he's a more talented Brock Purdy. And Slowick even mentioned Brock Purdy yesterday, talking about how look what we did with Mr. Irrelevant. Trey Lance is a great case study. I didn't really think of Trey Lance in terms of this conversation, but it's a really good case study in relation to Anthony Richardson because his skill set is somewhat more similar to Anthony Richardson than it is like C.J. Stroud, or you said Bryce Young, which is true. He's a bigger quarterback. He's a very athletic quarterback. But Trey Lance was accurate. Now, Trey Lance was accurate at North Dakota State. How much stock are you willing to put into that? I would say not that much, to be quite honest with you. But the reason that I think Trey Lance is such an interesting case study to this conversation is it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked in San Francisco. Is a lot of that bad luck because of injury? Yes, absolutely. It's an incomplete when we're grading Trey Lance. But it hasn't worked to date. That trade has been a bad trade. So if we're going to compare Richardson to Lance, I would say it's even more reason that the Texans are out on Anthony Richardson.
Well, and I think you could go both ways with it. I think you could say, hey, and maybe to Joe's point, that makes a lot of sense that it was a Lynch decision and not a Shanahan-type decision with the Shanahan offense and Slowick and those guys. But I think that you could have arguments on both sides because, to my point, look, if it wasn't Lynch involved, then it would be even more something to question because you say, well, if you want precision, you want all those things, then why'd you go out and get a guy that basically has a skill set that says something different? But if the general manager force-fed it on you and said that's who we're taking, then it's a different story because I agree with you. I mean, I look and think Trey Lance, and I think that's exactly why he doesn't fit, and that's why Richardson doesn't fit. And then I would ask you as the resident expert on Will Levis.
I didn't go there.
I did. I mean, Do you think that Levis is a fit with him saying that? Can Levis be that guy?
What's the knock on Levis? The knock on Levis was that he completed a quarter of his passes behind the line of scrimmage, right? Yeah, San Francisco throws a lot of those passes. San Francisco ran a West Coast offense. Will Levis did that in college. Will Levis had a better completion percentage this past year than Bryce Young did. So, yeah, I think Will Levis can be precise. I know that he gets, they call him inaccurate. He's kind of sporadic throwing the football. Well, they also point to how accurate he is throwing the football behind the line of scrimmage, which is something San Francisco
does. Well, that's why I asked you,
because
I'm not talking about.
I think he's a fit, quite honestly. I think Levis is a perfect fit for this offense, but I also think Bryce Young's a perfect fit for this offense.
Yeah, Bryce Young really is to me, because I think, hearing those words out of his mouth makes me think that's exactly what Bryce Young did at Alabama, and we saw it over and over again. Utilize the weapons you have. Get the ball in the hands of playmakers, and you don't have to do much, and you're going to get all the credit in the world, which we saw, and he won the Heisman Trophy, but he didn't have to do too much. Now, when the game was on the line and he had to do things, he still was fully capable of doing that too, but a majority of the time when he got success, it was because he did what he was supposed to do. He put the ball in the playmakers' hands and let them get chunk plays that did things for Alabama, and in a secondary fashion, did a whole lot of good for Bryce Young.
If you're looking at it from okay, we want a precise quarterback, a point guard back there that's always making the right decisions, the ball out on time, I would give Young the lead over Levis. But I would give Levis the lead over Stroud, and I would have Anthony Richardson completely off the board. Completely off the board. Because I do not look at Anthony Richardson, who was a 54% completion percentage in college, actually went down from his first year at Florida, where he only played in 7 games, to last year. He dropped 5 points in completion percentage. There's nothing about Anthony Richardson that's precise. Anthony Richardson is this big brute of a man who's incredibly athletic, jumps very high, which... are you looking for a quarterback that runs really fast, that can jump very high? I like quarterbacks that can throw the ball accurately. Bobby Slowick is saying that he wants precision. I don't think a 54% completion percentage is precise. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I frankly don't think that I am. I think that Anthony Richardson's out for the
I do
Houston
too, because I think the other thing that I keep preaching is I think he's 2 years away from getting an opportunity to be.
Well, now you're going Jimmy G.
Well, but I'm still saying that's another reason why Richardson's out, because of everything that you said, but also because I think this team is looking for a guy that much sooner than later, is going to be a guy that contributes to this team. And so I think that if you're looking at quarterback and you're looking at guys that fit what he said, I think that Richardson, the other thing that factors in is I think he's so raw. I think that no matter what you try to do and how you try and do it, that if he's 2 years away, he's too far away from being the guy that you need for this job for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that it's round peg, square hole. You're trying to force something in there, kind of look, if you want to use Trey Lance as the conversation, was Trey Lance trying to be forced into that San Francisco offense? Perhaps.
Well, and to give Joe credit again on the Lynch part of this, if it is true, is the fact that the reason why you heard as much as you heard behind the scenes as him not being ready in Trey Lance is because of the fact that once he got into a Shanahan offense, once he understood what was expected of the quarterback in a Shanahan structure, it basically was something that was a complete culture shock to him that he was having a hard time adjusting to, because there's so much pre-play call. Pre-snap. There's so much in the play calls. There's so much in a lot of times multiple play calls at the same time, and then based on what you see at the line of scrimmage, altering the play call. I think that was a system overload in a lot of ways, and I think he was really struggling to adapt to what Shanahan expects of his quarterback as opposed to what he was used to, and I think that's where the disconnect could have happened in San Francisco. That's why I think it's still an issue. I think now that Jimmy G is gone, and now that Purdy is still, way months away from playing because the surgery was delayed, I think that they're in a tough spot, because if Lance truly still isn't the guy, or they don't feel comfortable, I think with as good as the rest of the roster is, I think that they're going to be looking at some other version of a quarterback than Trey Lance. They're just going to have to eat crow in a little bit and admit he might not be a guy that he might be a guy that can play in the league. He might be a guy that can play for us.
I think I guess I'm in the minority here on the show. Honestly, I heard C.J. Stroud. I think rhythm, timing, precision.
You heard C.J. Stroud out?
No, the guy.
I could see that.
I do too.
I think C.J. Stroud, honestly, is going to be the quarterback for the Texans at 2, because I think Bryce Young will be gone. And honestly, even if he's not, I think there's a good chance C.J. Stroud's the guy. He's got the body type that Nick Caserio would typically go to in New England. Mm-hmm. He's 6'3". He's mobile, but he doesn't rely on the run. And he is extremely precise and accurate. I think C.J. Stroud, to me, is everything you would want in this offense.
I think as much
size-wise.
as we scrutinize what happened in that last game of the regular season, I believe more and more, and we always say, could Caserio have done more? Could he have deactivated some players and done some things? I think the built-in alibi excuse that Nick Caserio doesn't have to take a quarterback he doesn't believe in from a size perspective is something that he took a big sigh of relief for. So the more I see all these things too, I keep thinking C.J. Stroud's going to be the quarterback of the Texans.
The more I watch C.J. Stroud, the more I see Deshaun Watson on the field.
Is that good or bad?
Let's be very clear on the field. I don't know. Like at number 2 is Deshaun. Most people would say it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Most people would say it's a good. I was in the minority thinking that Deshaun Watson was a bit overrated, quite frankly, because he took a lot of negative plays. Now a lot of the negative plays C.J. Stroud doesn't. Like C.J. Stroud doesn't dance in the pocket nearly as much. He doesn't take nearly as many sacks.
He doesn't try to run as much as Deshaun did.
Yeah, I guess that'd be a good thing.
I mean, I think that the other thing too is the people that felt all the hype and saw the accolades that were coming Deshaun's way didn't see the win-loss record, and that's weird because most kind of average Texans fans are only concerned with how many games did you win. But I think it's with blinders on that a lot of people judge Deshaun Watson and they go, oh, my God, what a talent. Oh, my God, what a multifaceted quarterback that could run, could pass, had these numbers, did these things. They didn't look real closely at the games won and the big games won that I think that they get skewed. And it's weird because it's normally skewed towards wins and losses as a judgment. And with Deshaun, they don't. They just judge this guy was an all-world talent.
Which first-round quarterback best describes precision that Bobby Slowick and the Houston Texans want with this offense? Who doesn't?